Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new weekend out there so far. We got a lot to discuss in this morning's video, and what we're going to do is specifically focus in on the pattern shift as we get into the new year, into January, that's going to support well below average temperatures and even winter storm chances as we get deeper into January. If you want information on the severe weather outbreak potential for today across the Deep South, I made a totally separate video discussing that. I thought that these videos need to be separated from one another. I haven't done that ever on this channel in the morning videos. Of course, I make videos in the morning and the evening, but I've never made two videos like this in the morning. But I think that the severe weather threat is way too important as far as getting the information out to combine it with this update on the pattern shift. So if you want info on that, click on that video. That'll drop before this video. But in this video, we're going to discuss this pattern shift. First thing we'll go over is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center and how they scream confidence in this pattern shift as we turn over into the new year. We'll go over ensemble guidance that points to maybe some of the coldest air in 7 years, maybe since like early January 2018. We'll discuss that. We'll talk about winter storm chances. We'll show you ensemble guidance, operational runs, and I'll speak on my personal opinions on favorable time periods as we get deeper into January. This is going to support winter weather for any given area, but I'll focus a lot in on the South, but not only just the South. I'm going to talk about you folks in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and etc. also. But of course, winter weather brings a little bit more chaos to the South, so I'll speak on that. And then we'll nerd out with you guys, kind of break down the evolution of this pattern. We'll draw on the screen a little bit for you folks and discuss how and why this pattern gets so favorable. And then at the very end of the video, we will discuss a little bit about the severe weather potential for tomorrow for your Sunday. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is the latest for the Climate Prediction Center outlook. This was issued yesterday afternoon. This is going to, if you didn't tune in yesterday evening's video, this is going to blow your mind if you're a winter weather fan or just cold weather fan or just, concerned about cold weather in general. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook, okay? So this runs from January 2nd through the 6th of January. So this is after we turn into the new year. If you live in the blue, that's where the Climate Prediction Center, the experts, human beings, not just some random dude like me on YouTube, is going for a below average temperatures, a chance at below average temperatures. Now, the chances are higher over here. You have a 70% chance of temperatures being below normal in this darker shade of blue. And I'll zoom into this a little bit more. And this shade of blue right here, that's a 60% chance. Okay, and this shade of blue, it's a 50% chance of temperatures being below normal, and then etc. It drops a little bit more, then it drops even a little bit more. Same thing with over here, 40 to a 33% chance. You're going to be above average temperature-wise for the foreseeable future out west. The pattern screams this, it supports this, and that is what's going to happen. Now we go to the 8 to 14 day outlook. Now this is what will show you the precipitation outlook too. So this runs from basically the first 1/3 of January. This runs from January 4th through the 10th of the month. So I mean, like I said, the first 1/3 of the month. Confidence increases even more for a large area of below average temperatures. In this dark green is where you have a 70% chance of temperatures being below normal. And like I said, this 60, this 50, this 40, this 33. So it expands. The higher chances of below average temperatures expands into the Mid-Atlantic, even in portions of the Ohio Valley. But let's switch it. Are we going to get any precipitation from this based off just the Climate Prediction Center? The interesting thing with this is in this 8 to 14 day period, basically going through the 1/3 of the month, they've taken away the chances of below average precipitation, and we're just kind of grayed out here, which means it's leaning one way or the other. It's not leaning, or you can view it like this. It's not leaning one way or the other. It could be wetter. It could be drier. You could get around average precipitation. Now, the Deep South along the Gulf coastline leaning wetter. Okay, 33% chance of precipitation being above normal. So, yeah. All right, now let's switch it back to temperatures, and let's go to the 3 to 4 week outlook. Now, this is what had me tripping a little bit as a winter weather fan in a good way yesterday. 3 to 4 week outlook. You click on this. This goes, guys, through, through January 11th through the 24th of January. Folks, I mean, that's taking us about 70-75% through the month at this point. So this, basically all the eastern U.S., pretty much, except a little slither of Maine, has a shot of below average temperatures for the coldest time of the year, which is January for just about everybody. Now, somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, but I think January is just about historically the coldest month of the calendar year. Now, there is some months where your snowier months are, say, February. There is some states where, say, your snowier months are like February and March. For example, Denver, which isn't a state, I know it's a city, your snowiest month of the year is March. So it just depends on where you live with that. But as far as temperatures, January. And this is pretty wild. So listen, I mean, if you don't score in the South in this pattern, I don't know what you got to do. And I'm speaking for myself because I'm a huge snow fan, winter weather fan. I live in the armpit of hell, which is Columbia, South Carolina. And my folks here in South Carolina are probably laughing because they probably agree. But I think other people will probably fight me for that title depending on where you live. So, but anyways, cold. Now, what's wild with this? You look at this and then you look at that precipitation outlook in the same area. Below average temperatures for everybody just about in this green area. And they're leaning wetter. Okay, 33% chance. Well, actually, I'm sorry, a 50% chance of precipitation being above normal in this time frame between the 11th and the 24th of January. And the same time, you have a chance of below average temperatures. What does that spell? Well, to me, that tells me that they're honking the horn more as we get to the middle, to the kind of the third week of January for winter storm chances along the eastern seaboard. So let's discuss this. The latest Euro ensemble run from overnight. All right, we're going to start this for the evening, the last night of 2024, New Year's Eve, blowing fireworks off, whatever you may be doing. It'll be warmer in the eastern U.S., but watch as, and by the way, if you don't know, the bluer, the greener colors you see on your screen, that's where we have below average temperatures. And then the warmer colors is above average temperatures, the reds, the oranges, and even the whites and the weird shaded pink color up here. So we continue to progress this forward. We start to get into the morning of the 2nd of January. Below average temperatures start to take over the southeast, even all the way up into the Midwest, Ohio Valley, all the way back here to eastern Texas and all of the southeast. This bluish, the green shaded colors, that's anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees below average. Now, and I've said this for almost a week now. I think this will come in 2 shots, and the second shot will be colder than the first. This is the first shot of cold air. It'll cool down the eastern U.S. pretty dramatically. I think it'll be a pretty strong cold front that'll knock us to pretty chilly conditions to kickstart January. Hangs on to below average temperatures across the eastern U.S., except maybe Maine. And then the colder temperatures begin to creep down to the upper Midwest. And this is about a week from today. This is the morning. This is the first Saturday morning of 2025. So we're getting close to this now, guys. I mean, this isn't like in La La Land anymore. We're really working our way closer to this. So in the green colors, this is 10 to 15 degrees below average. For early January, that is frigid almost anywhere where you live. So you keep this going, and below average temperatures, there might be a little bit of a moderation period as we're getting into like the first Monday, say, of January. January 6th, January 7th. If you're wondering about time periods here it is up here. Just focus on the date, not the time of the day. And then up here, 6th of Jan, which is January. And then here comes the bigger shot of cold air, which I think will really be what sets the stage for an active winter storm pattern. And, man, look at this. We get into the 7th, 8th, 9th time period. I cannot reiterate how cold this is. And, I mean, this is stretching from the Dakotas to the eastern seaboard. This green area, folks, if you look at the key down here, it's 10, 15, and the shade of kind of whitish purple right here, that's getting to closer to 20 degrees below average for this time of the year. And it really just anchors itself and even gets even colder. I mean, that's getting to 25, maybe even more degrees below average. It anchors itself over just the entire eastern U.S., and it is such a cold run, and it lasts through the entirety of the run, all the way as far out as the Euro ensemble goes, which takes us through the evening of the 11th, which we're still well in this very active and favorable pattern for cold and winter weather. I'll even, give you a closer look, say, at what the Euro is showing. In the Euro, I'll show you the central U.S. and the eastern U.S. I'll kind of section them out. This is what the Euro from overnight showed, which, by the way, can be a conservative model. look how the cold air oozes down. It's above average in Texas, but then it throws the entire, not literally, but it just looks like it, the entire North Pole into the central U.S., and this is past 10 days, so this is going to go back and forth some, but it wants to throw 30 to 40, almost 50 degree below normal temperatures into the high plains. Throws one of these crazy, don't want to see it type cold fronts where, I mean, you got highs like in the single digits and teens into Texas. This is not a forecast, but this ran last night. I mean, this is loud and Barney colored field on your screen. And this cold is just, the pattern supports a cold outbreak like this. This is the unfortunate thing with it. And this cold, I mean, you see the numbers. This is not 40 degrees below zero. This is, for example, in Iowa, like 40, 42 degrees below your average temperatures for this time period. And guys, this is just dangerous cold. And, you know, you look at the eastern U.S. with this run, and it's the same thing. You know, it's already cold before this into the first, about a week into January. I mean, 10 to 15 degrees below normal in the green, that's cold enough. And then you get Barney that comes in here and then just throws everybody in the tundra. And this is not a forecast, but unfortunately, analogs and the pattern supports this kind of cold outbreak. And this is ridiculous. This is 40 to 50 degrees below average. So if your average temperature is 55 degrees for this time of the year, that would put you highs in like the single digits. Let's hope it's not this cold. That's even too cold for Mitch's standards, which you guys know I'm a big winter weather and cold fan. But yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. But that is a worst case scenario, I think. So let's talk about winter weather chances. Let's look at the Euro first. Now, the European is going to show you the Arctic outbreak. So it's, you already know it's going to do something wacky with the operational run, because that was the operational run I just showed you as far as temperatures compared to average. So let's start this off the evening of the first. Not a whole lot going on. System is impacting the Northeast. I really think with this first trough that digs down, we're going to have some snow that probably is going to try to fall across the Midwest. This is probably going to bring some snow west of the Alps, some light snow. You see the blue here all the way into the central and southern Appalachian Mountains. This could bring some snow even down to Tennessee and definitely Kentucky, Ohio. Not a big event, though. That could change, but I don't expect a big event out of that. Then we get in kind of a quiet period. A little bit of a moderation. It looks like we have a flexing of the ridge, and I do think we'll have a storm system that bubbles up because of that. And this is kind of between a little bit of the moderation period and the next cold shot of air. And I think it'll remain cold still over most of this area, the eastern and central U.S. But we got the lake effect snows ongoing, the northwest flow snows ongoing with the cold air going over the Great Lakes. And then we get this kind of amped up system as we're getting into the evening of Sunday. And models are liking this. They continue to show this little amped up system. And this is bringing the low pressure right in the middle of like Missouri. Like 8 days from now, this brings a winter storm over the Midwest. A lot of icing over areas in the Midwest. This pink is freezing rain, snow in the blue. This brings a winter storm for the upper Midwest. And you're thinking, well, this isn't anything different than what we've seen. And then brings a winter weather event for like the 6th to 7th of January time period for the Northeast. But it's mainly the interior sections of New England and the Northeast. After the 10-day period, this is when I think wacky weather happens. Huge trough digs down. This is not a forecast. Good gracious, please remember that. Big system digs down, and all of a sudden we get, and I'm just going to go on and get a little bit closer, and all of a sudden, with the cold air Arctic front that dives down, we get a system that's similar to last year's winter storm in January. Well, technically still this year. This past January, we get a system that's very similar. This looks exactly like it's almost a copy and paste. We get this winter storm moving across areas of the Deep South, northern Mississippi. This would be the 8th, 9th, 10th time frame, and brings winter weather as far south as Mobile, Alabama. But look at the good old Columbia, South Carolina, the Eastern Carolinas, just getting good old-fashioned rain. And this does bring a winter storm for the Northeast. Do not get bummed out, guys, seeing these models. And trust me, I'm human too. I woke up and I saw this model run, and I was like, good gracious, are you serious? The same areas getting winter weather again. I get like that too, guys. I'm not, I'm not perfect. But just remember that we're going to get wild model swings. And I'm going to show you what this shows compared to the GFS, and I'm about to show you too. But the pattern supports after the day 10 period. Once we get, I'm telling you, once you get past the first weekend of January, I've said that over and over and over again, that's when things are going to start to get weird. And I think models are going to continue to have to try to figure that one out. And then that system moves in. The air is so cold on this model run that it's snowing in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of the Carolinas. And we got a lot of energy, a lot of flurries, a lot of energy associated with this. And then right at the end of the run, you're seeing some pink show up on your screen. That's likely about to be another winter storm if this run would keep going. And guys, this takes us through the evening of the 11th of January. And I think the pattern is still full-fledged ahead at this point. I still think that it's just going strong. And I honestly favor getting into closer to the mid-month time frame for a winter storm for areas for the deeper in the southeast. And I think I read a comment this morning that said, what do you consider the southeast? I consider this the southeast, guys. I'm going to draw on this a little bit. I consider sort of this area right here the southeast. Now, some people are going to disagree. I consider this area right here kind of the deep south, which obviously combines with areas of the southeast. I think they kind of overlap each other. So geographically, my take on that is going to be different than others. Midwest is a big argument in the not an argument, but a discussion in the comments. I don't have a clue why they considered Ohio the Midwest. It makes geographically no sense to me, but more people do than they don't. But anyways, moving past all that junk, looking at the latest GFS from this morning, same thing. We'll start off the evening of January 1st, first night of January. Okay, let's get this rolling. Here comes the system that first weekend of January. And the latest Euro shows this too. This is going to probably bring a little bit of light snow across the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. Definitely on the west side of the mountains, I think this has a chance to bring a little bit of snow even all the way down into Nashville. Heck, maybe even northern Alabama. I don't think this will be a big system at all. What's interesting to me is there's a lot of energy. You see this dip in the 540 line. There's a lot of energy right here. But it just does not get its act together fast enough because the first trough dig is positioned too far east. And it just does not dig enough in time. In fact, you can tell it's trying to get the energy reflecting to the surface in the form of some snow in Virginia. But it just doesn't. It's too little too late. Okay, here's that moderation period. Could have, and the GFS is already showing something different compared to its last few runs. I think we'll have another storm system getting into the end of the first weekend of January, kind of to the 6th and 7th time frame. And who knows, that could bring some winter weather. I think it has a chance to bring a winter storm across the Midwest. Could bring something for the Northeast. But this is when the cold air really bogs down. And all of a sudden, into like the morning of the 7th, we're getting winter weather as far south as almost the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're getting snow across Oklahoma, snow across Arkansas, and then we'll go on and switch this to the eastern U.S. frame here. And all of a sudden, we have an overrunning type event. We got cold air crashing down on this precipitation. We have a winter storm across Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. Cold air's crashing down. We have this wintry, icy mix across the Carolinas. And this is in the 7th, 8th night time period. And watch what happens. Turns into a significant winter storm for Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, areas of Kentucky. And it turns into an ice storm for my neck of the woods. In the pink, that's freezing rain. The orange is sleet. But, this isn't a forecast. But listen, the pattern is going to begin to support this kind of stuff. And this would be a significant winter weather event for this areas of the Southeast and the Midwest. And this continues. And then what happens after that? Another system tries to fly down. This is northern stream dominated, brings some snow across the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, down into Tennessee. And it tries to pop off another low pressure here. It just doesn't quite do it. Low here, a lot of energy flying down here, and it even tries to show some snow down here in South Carolina. And then, what happens after that, who knows? But listen, I mean, there is a lot of energy flying around, guys. A lot. Now, the Euro ensemble as far as snowfall. This takes us between now, this is not a snowfall forecast, folks, but this takes us between now and Sunday evening. Between now and the evening of the 11th. Guys, I've been making videos all morning, a little gassed here, so if I trip up, mix up some things, I do apologize. But this goes through the evening of the 11th, and that's a solid snowfall mean, but not overly alarming up here for the Dakotas, the upper Midwest, but definitely a signal that you're going to get some snow. But you always get snow pretty much for this time of the year. Nothing unusual. The south central U.S., it begins to drop off significantly. So not a heavy signal down in Texas, a little bit of a signal in Oklahoma and northern Arkansas, but you can see the orientation of this dips southeast. Okay. Now, speaking of the GFS ensemble, what is it showing for this time period? It's even less for like the middle, like the plains. And this actually, I don't think this is done running, unfortunately. It only goes 354 hours out. So we don't have the entirety of the run, but it doesn't really matter anyways because, that's pretty far out, very unreliable time frame. But the signal isn't as large as far south, and it's about the same for Texas. So yeah, gotta watch this. And then we look at the eastern U.S. And I want to actually stop it. I'm stopping it right here. This is the evening of the 5th of January. Notice you got a signal for snow in the areas that, should see it this time of the year. Lake effect snow areas, heavy signal as cold air spills over the Great Lakes. And we have struggled freezing the Great Lakes lately, but I think we're going to do it over the next few weeks. I think that from what I hear, there's already portions of the Great Lakes, like Lake Erie, Ontario, that are more frozen already so far this year compared to the last few. So that's interesting. But that's the way it normally should be. But you can see most of the snowfall signal confined to the north. Watch as I move this in time, and I keep showing you guys this. It's after the first weekend of January when this snowfall mean average, this is not a forecast, begins to bog south. Look how it begins to drop south, and especially as we get into that mid-month time frame. Look how it begins to drop into the 8th, the 9th time frame. And I mean, we'll go all the way out until about 360 hours out, the evening of the 11th of January. That's a solid snowfall mean all the way into South Carolina, Georgia, northern Alabama, Tennessee, very impressive snowfall average. North Carolina, same thing. In points north, it gets even better. The I-95 corridor, a few to several inch snowfall mean. So I do think the pattern could support a Miller A system. I don't think you're going to get a major winter storm if you get a cold air press like you got off the Euro, but you still could get a moderate winter storm. So we just don't know the answers. I keep seeing the same comments, guys, like, Mitch, talk more about this time frame, or how much snow is Billy Bobtown, Alabama going to get? I can't answer any of those questions, and nobody can. Somebody can if they want to, but really they're not being truthful with you. They can take a guess, and I just don't know the answers. That's why we keep revising this information. Now, the latest from the GFS ensemble, and I hadn't even looked at the completion of this run. Same thing, will start off the evening of January 6th. Not a very impressive signal for areas far south or even the I-95 corridor. Snow showing up for the same areas that typically see it. We start to move past this time period. We start to get into the first full week of January, the 7th. We get into the 8th. We get into the 9th. And we get into the 10th, and we get all the way out into, and this is as far out as it goes. So you can tell that the snowfall average and mean begins to drop as we start to get deeper into the month. Impressive snowfall average for the I-95 corridor, for Kentucky, for Tennessee, and even in North Carolina. And just to kind of get a closer look at the southeast here, not as impressive as I would say last night's run, but this is going to bounce back and forth. Last night's run, a little bit better looking, and the run before that, even better looking. So we've kind of trended a little less, but I wouldn't call it a trend because we're just going to go back and forth. The operational run was more impressive. So one thing that I'll show you guys is this is the weeklies run between now and about the end of January. So still an impressive signal for snow even far south. This is not a forecast, so I don't post it on social media because this stuff goes viral and people just take it out of context. So, yeah, guys, that's an update on the snowfall. As far as, these individual snowfall means off the Euro Ensemble, I don't hardly ever show you guys this because it's one of those things that just gets taken the wrong way. But you remember I kind of discussed how the Euro Ensemble makes up about 50 different runs, and then it kind of combines them all to create a member. Well, this is what I mean here. And if you look at all these members, this is 1 through 25. You see how some of these members have snow for South Carolina, deep into Georgia. Some have snow like right here along the Gulf coastline. It's probably very hard to see. Some have this swath of accumulating snow for Georgia and the Carolinas. Almost all of them have some snow for Tennessee. And you got this one. And then you got some big dogs like number 3 right here that shows this huge winter storm for the Carolinas and Georgia. So some impressive snowfall means in this. You got this one. You got this one. This wants to dump a foot of snow almost all the way down to the panhandle of Florida. So you have some wild members here. And here's the other 25 members and definitely some impressive members. But you also have a lot of members that totally miss the South. But remember, this only goes out 360 hours out. And I think we're still well into this pattern at this point. So the portion of the video will kind of nerd out with you guys a little bit and make sure that my clicker is working. And it is. Just don't want to use that color. Is what you're seeing on your screen, lower pressures in the blue, higher pressure in the yellows and oranges and reds. Okay, lower pressure, colder temperatures, energy in the atmosphere, higher pressure, warmer temperatures, and things like that. So we'll start off for Friday morning, the first Friday morning, January the 3rd, so 6 days from now. We got this trough digging over at the eastern U.S. Yes, this is bringing a shot of cold air with it. So cold air is going to follow in here. This will bring us our first shot of cold air. And I know you're seeing all this blue and you're thinking, winter storm right here. That's not what that means. This trough position is positioned just a little bit too far east. So ridge pushed a little bit too far to the east. Yes, we do have a ridge spiking all the way up to Alaska. This is dislodging cold air into this dip in the jet, this energy. And we got some pretty nice blocking up here in the high latitudes, which is locking in some energy. But this is mainly northern stream dominated. Our southern stream, which is kind of down here, is not getting very active yet. So a lot of these pieces of energy are sort of sliding down into here and then kind of just doing this. And there's no connection to any energy down here to make a bigger storm system sort of, into here. So I really think this first trough is just positioned too far over here, too far to the east. Watch as we continue to evolve this pattern. First trough kind of does its thing. It moves on out. And then it's this secondary dip in the jet that forms, this secondary trough. And we'll extend this all the way out to about, this is like the morning of the 9th of January on the Euro Ensemble. Same thing. We got the ridge, the positive PNA, negative EPO, ridging all the way up into Alaska. Dislodgement of cold air south, riding down the western base of this trough. This dips down, brings a ton of cold air down here. We know the cold air is coming. What about the storm systems? Well, now that this trough is positioned further to the west, this ridge is spiking further to the north and further to the west. This will allow energy to sort of dig down further to the west. So I'm going to continue to draw these X's. This will allow energy to dive just further to the west, deeper to the south, and as it digs, it has a chance to sort of amplify and strengthen. So that means that, and also the fact that I think your southern stream gets more active too. So we're connecting these pieces of energy from the northern stream and the southern stream. We get a connection somewhere, and we could run the risk of multiple shots of bigger storms in this area. So we just got to figure out what's going to happen with that, and we just don't know. And, does this dig too far to the west and then amplify and strengthen and cut like this? That would bring mostly rain across the Carolinas and Georgia, and maybe a bigger winter storm chance. I wouldn't draw that area, but maybe a bigger winter storm chances to the west of this arrow. Okay? Does your storm dig properly down like this? And then you get a good old Gulf low and coastal system, cold air coming down, and low pressure off the coastline, and then we get winter weather across this entire area right here. And that could bring winter weather for Tennessee too. Or do we get both? I mean, do we get one system that kind of rides like this at first, then another one that rides like that, and then another one that kind of rides like this? I think it's possible. I think you could have multiple shots at this. But the thing is we have trended this second trough further to the west. Now, you can see that how we kind of have now lower pressure. This indicates that the trough is digging further to the west now. Now, if you get it to dig too far to the west, like I said, you run the risk of these systems diving down here and then cutting like this or like this. Then you're going to support a better pattern for winter storms, maybe for Texas, all the way north into the Midwest. And listen, I'll be honest, historically, over the last few years, for whatever reason, the atmosphere has favored dropping the entire North Pole down into the south central U.S. So you don't want to trend this too far this way if you're an East Coast snow weather fan. You do if you're kind of a central U.S. Winter weather fan. So I hope that makes sense. And listen, this pattern sticks around with us for the long run. Okay, it's a wonderful looking pattern for winter weather and definitely cold. And another way to explain this is the Euro ensemble as far as energy in the atmosphere. You see here in the green and kind of turquoise and bluish green color, that is energy with the first trough. You can tell that this is all mainly northern stream dominated. You're not seeing any energy down here. This is digging just more aggressively over the Great Lakes region and the Northeast. Okay, so this isn't going to connect with anything down here and do anything big. It could bring snow as far south as maybe Tennessee, but even if it does get to Tennessee first weekend of January, it's not going to be a big event. Then we start to get energy that gets amped up with this little ridge spike here. So we get this kind of area of energy that shows up at the end of the first weekend of January, 4th, 5th, 6th time frame. This kind of gets congealed with this secondary trough dig, and as you can tell, at this rate, now, as we're getting several days into January, 8th, 9th, 10th, and beyond, this dip in the jet is going more so like this now. We're starting to get a little bit more energy, even though you can barely see it coming up from the southern stream, and a lot of energy diving down from the northern stream. So we'll just have a chance of a connection a little bit more in this area as we progress deeper into the month. So you see the difference here. Okay, you see that, a lot of energy coming down. So you see that, and then you compare it to the first batch. You see how that's positioned further east, and then here comes the secondary one. The energy is just further west. That's what you want to see for digging and for an amplifying system with plenty of cold air to boot that get a winter storm. So that's the latest information I got as far as this major pattern shift. I do want to speak a little bit on the severe weather risk for tomorrow. There is a slight risk stretching from southern Virginia all the way down into eastern areas of Alabama. This includes Atlanta, Macon, down to Albany, Douglas, Statesboro. Includes Augusta, Macon, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, even includes Hendersonville, Asheville, even eastern Tennessee, Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, Florence, all the way up to Danville, all the way to Lynchburg, Roanoke. Everybody in the yellow. Slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Now, the tornado threat is definitely smaller. This includes Augusta to Columbia to Charlotte, up to the Greensboro, and almost to the Raleigh area. In this brown area, that's where you have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. But this huge area in green runs a 2% risk of a tornado. And then the wind threats, pretty large area, runs a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. Here's just a closer up look at these areas right here. I'll just kind of scan through this. Now, the risk of hail, not as big, but there is a threat, just that 5% risk. So, and just taking a look at what the HRRR model could look like tomorrow. This is starting off tomorrow morning. I really think this will favor more of just a one giant line of storms, but we could have convection out ahead of this. But this is a nasty line of storms. Like, this is around 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, sweeping through Georgia, through South Carolina, could blast through like Columbia up to Charlotte through around lunchtime. This line of storms looks intense even up here in Southwest Virginia. This continues to progress forward into the eastern Carolinas. Just a nasty looking line of storms capable of producing damaging winds and definitely embedded tornadoes. And any individual cells that can kind of break loose out ahead of this system, this main line of storms, could produce tornadoes. But the line itself is going to run the risk of producing tornadoes. And this line of storms will maybe start to lose some gas as we get into tomorrow evening. And then this continues to move away. Now, the significant tornado parameter is not very high on the HRRR model, but you just need a little bit of ingredients in the atmosphere, and we could get a spin up with this. And I do think we'll get a few tornado warnings tomorrow. The updraft velocity swath with this does, indicate a few rotating updrafts, especially the further in Georgia you get, and even lower sections of South Carolina. And then we do run the risk of those damaging winds. Let's look at the wind gust swath. I mean, we're going to get anywhere from 40, maybe 45 mile per hour wind gust at most, maybe 50 mile per hour wind gusts with some of these storms. So very breezy conditions and windy conditions associated with these main lines of storms. Guys, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. And I'll have you another update maybe sometime tonight. God bless.